Welcome to Rob on Holiday. Today we're going to tell you everything you need to know about the Lightning Lane systems here at Walt Disney World. That covers single pass lightning lanes and multi-pass lightning lanes.
Lightning Lane is Disney's skip the line system, allowing you to book time slots to skip most of the queue at attractions across the resort. And it can be a bit confusing to learn how to use it for the first time. But don't worry, we've done the research and tried out the system throughout our recent 2-week trip to Walt Disney World, so that we can share all the tips and tricks you need to know to use Lightning Lane successfully at Walt Disney World. The first thing to know is that there are 3 Lightning Lane tiers: Lightning Lane Single Pass, Lightning Lane Multipass, and Lightning Lane Premier Pass. Lightning Lane Single Pass is a pay-per-ride pass available for just 5 attractions across Disney World. And unsurprisingly, these are some of the resort's most popular attractions: Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Tron Light Cycle Run at Magic Kingdom, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot, Avatar Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom, and Star Wars Rise of the Resistance at Hollywood Studios. The price you will pay for a single pass varies depending on the ride you're booking and the time of year you're visiting. So, for example, during spring break, the prices were as follows: $13 for the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, $21 for Tron Light Cycle Run, $18 for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, $17 for Flight of Passage, and $25 for Rise of the Resistance. This is one of the most expensive periods of the year, so it might be a bit cheaper for you, but as you can see, Lightning Lane Single Pass can get pricey, especially when you're travelling in a large group. Each person can book up to 2 Lightning Lane Single Passes a day, and these do not have to be in the same park, but each individual ride can only be booked once per day per person. Next up is Multipass. Lightning Lane Multipass is a little more like the old FastPass system, except now that unfortunately you have to pay for it. Multipass allows you to book skip the line passes at 3 attractions prior to your trip, and on the day, once you've used one, you can book another. One important thing to bear in mind is that your 3 pre-booked rides must be in the same park, and you will pay a different price depending on which park it is that you're visiting. But don't worry, if you plan on visiting more than one park per day, you can use the Multipass across multiple parks. It's just your initial selections that have to be from one park. Once again, the time of year will affect the price you pay for Multipass. So during our spring break visit, the prices were $37 for Magic Kingdom, $28 for Epcot, $25 for Animal Kingdom, and $32 for Hollywood Studios. So, what rides can you book with Multipass? Well, pretty much every ride in the park that is not a single pass attraction. However, there is a catch. In all parks except Animal Kingdom, Multipass comes with tiers. This means that in your initial 3 selections, you can only book 1 of the Tier 1 attractions and 2 of the Tier 2 attractions. We'll put a full list of attractions on screen now, but let's quickly run through the Tier 1 attractions. At Magic Kingdom there's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, Jungle Cruise, Peter Pan's Flight, Space Mountain and Tiana's Bayou Adventure. At Epcot there's Frozen Ever After, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, Soaring Around the World and Test Track. And at Hollywood Studios there's Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, Rock and Roller Coaster and Slinky Dog Dash. As I mentioned, Animal Kingdom does not follow the tier system, so you can pick any 3 rides from your initial 3 selections. As well as attractions, some shows such as Festival of the Lion King at Animal Kingdom and the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular at Hollywood Studios are also included in the Multipass system. However, unlike FastPass, character meet and greets are generally not included. Once again, the tier rule only applies for your first 3 rides. As soon as you tap into your first Lightning Lane Multipass selection of the day, the next ride you book can be from any tier you want in any park, as long as it's available. But, as with Single Pass, each ride can only be booked once per person per day. The final Lightning Lane package available at Walt Disney World is Lightning Lane Premier Pass. Premier Pass allows you to skip the line at all Single Pass and Multipass attractions in one park without having to book a specific time slot. As you can imagine, this comes with a gargantuan price tag. In March 2025, prices for Premier Pass were as follows: $399 for Magic Kingdom, $209 for Epcot, $179 for Animal Kingdom, and $309 for Hollywood Studios. Most guests, including us, will not be using Premier Pass. So for the rest of the video, we're going to be focusing on Singlepass and Multipass. So the next thing that we need to cover is when and how to book your lightning lanes. Disney Resort guests can book lightning lanes for their entire trip 7 days in advance of their arrival day. Non-resort guests can book lightning lanes 3 days in advance of each day of their trip. Unfortunately, this means that if you're staying off-site, it's unlikely that the really popular rides will still be available when your booking window opens. So if lightning lane is something you want to use, it might be a good idea to splash out on a Disney resort. Bookings open each day at 7 AM Orlando time or midday UK time. So make sure that you are logged into My Disney Experience app on your phone and your booking is linked so that you will be able to book on time. Being on a mobile phone is important because booking currently does not work on the Disney World website. It has to be the app. When the booking window opens, head to the My Disney Experience homepage and click Purchase on either the Multipass, Singlepass button or on the Premier Pass button. We're going to click on the Multipass Singlepass button. On the next page, select the date and the park or parks that you want to book lightning lanes for. Remember, you can book Multipass for one park only, but you can book single passes in 2 parks if you want. It's at this stage that you will find out the price of your Multipass and single passes for the date you've chosen. Click Continue, where you'll be then directed to select your party. Everyone who's connected to your My Disney Experience account will come up, so make sure to only select the people coming on this trip because otherwise you'll be paying for unnecessary lightning lanes. If you've selected to purchase Multipass, the next screen will show you a list of all the rides available and instruct you to select the 3 rides that you want to book. The tier lists are shown here, so it's easy to work out what you can and what you can't book. If you're only purchasing single passes, you'll skip this step. On the final booking screen, you'll see that the system has automatically assigned you times for each of your selected rides. Don't worry, you can change these on this screen. The times you have been given or select will be held for 5 minutes while you make any changes. To change the time, click Modify Time under the ride and you will be shown all the times currently available. The good thing about this is that if the rides you wanted aren't available, you can cancel the transaction at this stage. Once you're happy with your selections, click Continue and you'll be taken to the payment screen. To make this process easier, make sure that a credit card is attached to your account before your booking window opens. Alternatively, you can use Apple Pay to make sure you book quickly. When your payment has been processed, you will be taken to a confirmation screen where you can then select to exit the booking system or book lightning lanes for another day, starting the process again. You can view or modify your selections whenever you want by heading to the My Plans section in the My Disney Experience app. This is also where you'll go to book future Multipass lightning lanes when you're in the parks. Booking lightning lanes can be stressful, but to make it easier, we recommend having a plan with a list of passes you want to book and the approximate times you're aiming for, which brings us to our recommendations for the best lightning lanes to book. At Magic Kingdom, our Tier 1 choice will be Tiana's Bayou Adventure. It's the newest ride at Magic Kingdom and it's a fantastic ride that you won't want to miss on your trip. If you have small kids who aren't tall enough to ride, Peter Pan's Flight is another good choice. For Tier 2, Haunted Mansion is a really good choice. It's a classic ride and one that most people will enjoy. Others to consider are Pirates of the Caribbean, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh and Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin. At Epcot, it's really a toss-up between Frozen Ever After and Remy's Ratatouille Adventure for Tier 1. I would say that you should look to book one and rope drop the other, so Ratatouille is probably the best one to book if you're entering from the front of the park. And in Tier 2, Spaceship Earth and Mission Space are probably the best choices in terms of skipping lines. At Animal Kingdom, we would recommend Navi River Journey, Kilimanjaro Safaris and Expedition Everest. If you don't mind using single rider over at Everest, consider swapping this lightning lane for either Cali River Rapids or Festival of the Lion King show. And at Hollywood Studios, we would recommend Slinky Dog Dash for Tier 1. The line for Slinky Dog Dash is outside, which is something you'll definitely want to avoid in the Florida heat. For Tier 2, the Tower of Terror and Toy Story Mania are good choices. If you're not a thrill seeker and you plan on skipping Tower of Terror like us, we thought that the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular was a good use of your third lightning lane, as it's so popular that you'll often have to be queuing 30 minutes in the standby line to get a place. One more top tip for booking your lightning lanes. If you want to make the most out of Multipass, you will want to make sure that you make one of your time slots as early in the day as possible. This is because once you've scanned into one lightning lane, the tier rule and the single part rule go away. So the earlier you regain access to the system in the day, the more likely you are to get better rides for your next selections. Based on our experience, it's just about possible to get a slot for most rides early in the morning, except for Slinky Dog Dash and Tiana's Bayou Adventure, but you can be lucky with those too. However, the slots you will be able to get are generally going to be 7 PM or later for the most popular rides if they are available. Therefore, one of our top tips for making the most of Multipass is to use it when you plan on spending all day in the park or you plan on visiting another park at night. Talking of booking your next lightning lane, how do you do it? Well, once you've scanned into a ride, if you go to the My Plans section of the app, it will tell you that you now have a slot free to book another lightning lane. Click book and you'll be able to select another ride. Another important tip, refresh the screen and check back regularly. People are changing their lightning lane selections all the time, so new times pop up regularly for many rides, even the most popular ones. You just have to be on the app at the right time. To refresh, simply pull down on the screen and new times will populate. What happens if the ride breaks down during your lightning lane return time? Well, then you'll be issued with something called an Experience Redemption Pass. This happened to us with our single pass for Rise of the Resistance. An Experience Redemption basically means that you can return at any time later in the day to ride. If the ride that has broken down is part of the Multipass system, you may also have the option to use the pass at another ride, but which ride you can do this at varies. There will be a list provided on the pass itself in your app. So there's one last thing to cover, and it's the most important question of this video. Is Lightning Lane worth your money? Well, the answer's a little complicated. Based on our experience, Singlepass is worth it, and Multipass generally isn't. Multipass is much more expensive than Singlepass, and thanks to the tier system, you might not be getting value for money. For example, while the lightning lane for Remy's Ratatouille Adventure is very useful, the Tier 2 attractions at Epcot do not usually require lightning lanes, as their lines tend to be short anyway. Yes, you could use it at multiple parks, but it's very difficult to get more than one good extra lightning lane on the same day, especially when visiting at busier times. My final comments on Lightning Lane will be that how many you should book depends on how long you're staying. If you're only visiting each park once and plan to stay from the park opening until when it closes, maybe Multipass is worth it for you, as it reduces the number of lines that you will have to wait in on the day, and you might be able to get a few extra lightning lanes later in the day. However, in our case, visiting for 2 weeks meant that we visited each park multiple times, and therefore could have done most things on our to-do list without Multipass. As I said, I do think Singlepass is worth it regardless of how long you're staying, and it's slightly cheaper, so it offers more value for money for less effort. But ultimately, whether Lightning Lane is right for you or not will depend on your budget and your personal circumstances. That's it for today's video. We hope you find this Lightning Lane guide helpful. If you have any questions about Lightning Lane or about visiting Walt Disney World in general, leave them in the comments below and we'll be more than happy to get back to you. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and consider subscribing for more travel and Disney tips. Thanks for watching Rob on Holiday, and we'll see you next time.